Owners of refineries have called on the federal government to ensure that crude oil producers prioritize crude supply to domestic refiners before exporting the commodity. This issue has resulted in significant challenges for local refineries, according to the operators, which are unable to operate at full capacity, limiting their potential contribution to the energy sector. For months, they say, no allocation has been received under the domestic crude oil supply obligation framework or through any other special arrangement. Now, these local refineries comprise of modular refineries, and I want to believe the Dangote refinery as well, because it's a refinery of 650,000 barrels capacity, but gets an allocation of 350,000 barrels of crude from the NNPCL. And we're also looking at the Port Harcourt and Warri refinery also starting up, as well as those who secured licenses. So this issue has become a front burner issue, Doc. Local refiners not getting enough crude as they should. Some even struggle to get allocation. We understand that the government needs to make some sales by selling crude oil outside of Nigeria. It needs forex as well. But what happens to the local refiners? Shouldn't they get a reprieve because they're domiciled within Nigeria? At least they don't have to pay for landing costs and all of the logistics they would need to take care of if they're importing crude.
What a good problem to have.
Is it?
Oh, it's a good problem to have.
So if it's a good problem, are we handling the problem right?
Yeah, but I think that's what it is, that we also would need to put framework in place to be able to deal with some of these issues. And we're also not unaware of some of the obligations that government has entered into before now, which is a continuum. And of course, you have sold part of your crude because you have to swap for money. And by the information in the public domain is that transactions will close by 2026. Hopefully by 2026, we should be able to see, okay, whatever that is the Nigerian share of the crude production, they can actually do the allocations very well. But I think what is really interesting here is the fact that we are having a new problem. In 2015 up to 2023, the challenge was, where are we going to import fuel from? But this new problem now is that now you are having local refineries that are demanding for crude. We want to produce at home. And don't forget that even just yesterday, the Dangote refinery says so they are now operating at 85% capacity, and that they are going to ramp up in the next 30 days to be doing 100% capacity, producing 650,000 barrels daily. And of course, market is open out there, although the sources, they were silent on where they're going to get their crude from. And so a whole lot is happening in that sector, that over the last 25 years that has been moribund, that life is coming to that sector. And that is what it means for me. And I think that the government also must brace up to meet that new challenge, because it only means more money for us. Dangote shipping jet fuel from Nigeria to Saudi Arabia, Aramco, is a good news for us. And I think these are things that, of course, we should be encouraged that if more of these happen, our teeming youth will find jobs, the economy become the wheel of the Nigerian economy is oiled, and Nigeria has more money. The basic and social infrastructure that we have all craved for all start to happen. And I think we need to have more refineries built. We need to have more capacity ramp up, so that we are not just carrying crude outside. We are also earning forests from operational activities, because I know that local market will not be able to absorb all that will be produced here, and at least we can get some cash from the neighboring countries, and that will just be good for the country Nigeria.
Talking about Saudi Aramco, you know, very good example when it comes to state-owned oil company. They've been doing so well for years and turning out lots of profits. But we have here the NNPCL, which is supposed to be Nigeria's own version of the Saudi Aramco, struggling, still purchasing petroleum products from other refineries, whether it's from abroad or in Nigeria. And then now we have news that the Port Harcourt refinery has started producing, and soon the Warri refinery would join. But Nigeria is still managing to produce 1.4 million barrels per day, even though the targets of President Tinubu is in this year to produce over 2 million barrels per day. What do we need to do to ensure that we have sufficiency? Do we need to give more new licenses for oil exploration? Are there areas that need to be tapped? Should we now begin to ask that for oil that is being produced in Nigeria, we should know exactly what is the quantity we produce, so we know if we have enough or we can have enough?
First of all, whilst the Tinubu administration is looking at 2 million barrels per day for production, in which the 2025 budget is hinged, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission is looking at Nigeria that at the moment we need 770,500 barrels per day for both the Dangote refinery and 7 other local domestic refineries for them to consume that amount. Because if you look at that, if the Dangote refinery is about 650,000 barrels per day, and the government is saying both Dangote refinery and other domestic refineries have been producing 770,500 barrels per day, then it's obvious that Dangote will be getting like 350, like it was muted earlier on. And those local refineries, let's even briefly look at what capacity that they operate on, so that we can begin to see the data that the government has factored into place to be forecasting the 2 million barrels per day. So the refineries include 10,000 barrels per day. That's the OPAC refinery in Delta State. 5,000 barrels per day for the Walter Smith refinery in Imo State. The 2,500 barrels per day Dupont Midstream in Edo State, and 1,500 barrels per day still in Edo State. And then others include the 11,000 barrels per day Ardell refinery in Rivers State, 60,000 barrels per day Old Port Harcourt refinery in Rivers State, 125,000 barrels per day Warri refinery in Delta State, and 110,000 barrels per day Kaduna refinery in Kaduna State. If we look at all this and we put all of this together, that's based on when the government will be looking at achieving its plan for 2 million barrels per day. However, crude oil marketers have not prioritized domestic refineries. So if they have not prioritized domestic refineries, and there is a framework laid down by the government that, look, domestic refineries must be given priority in the supply of the commodity, and we make sure that the allocated quota to these domestic refineries have been given before we can start considering foreign or other foreign countries or other countries contiguous to Nigeria, other African countries, before we can start taking out the commodity to that effect. Now, for those who breach that law, for the marketers who are falling short of that specification, what is the deterrent action that the government has put in place to tackle them, so that we cannot go hungry, quote unquote, of this product in the domestic sense? Because those who are taking the commodity abroad are looking at making excess profits at the expense of local consumption. Until the government stands up to address that, we will just be going around, and we cannot even talk about that means the government's effort of reviving the refineries in Delta State, in River State, and looking at building up more modular refineries. It means that we have already defeated that purpose from the beginning if we are not on our toes to make sure that this priority is defended concerning domestic refineries.
You know, when it comes to this issue of prioritizing exports over imports of certain products, we've seen that play out even with the setup of NLNG, Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas Company. So it's set up for 70% exports and 30% imports. So we understand, yes, we need to be more engaged in international trade. We need to have forex. But why do we constantly see this priority given to export over import, even for agricultural produce? Once a particular produce is in international demand, we find that it becomes very scarce at home and very expensive. At what point do we call it, or do we begin to say, yes, we need to satisfy, or we need to attend to the demands elsewhere, but let's satisfy home first? Does it have to be a matter of policy, or it's just a matter of patriotism, a matter of business? What exactly is the issue, Doc?
Well, there are two basic issues here that we must not make look so simplistic. The first issue is the fact that this crude does not belong to the Nigerian government 100%. And secondly, you have more foreigners who operate in that sector than locals. And so when you talk about patriotism or nationalism, you know who the investors will be patriotic to. So it will be to the country of their origin in the first place. Then there's also this fact that a lot of people hedge their currencies against the dollar, because we cannot determine what the value of a naira will be in another 3 months. Now, for a businessman who put money in the economy, he's always thinking about how you're going to multiply that money. And so, if, of course, like the policy has says, okay, if you sell to local refineries, of course, they buy naira. So, which means your asset is also valued in naira. And the more the naira depreciates, the more your asset go down. And this is the peculiarity of the environment. And that's why, for me, the bigger job is for the CBN to ensure that we have a stable naira so that people don't speculate the dollar. This is the real deal here. Because if you ask me, and people will prefer that I sell these things and I keep it in dollar, so that even if I'm bringing the money back into the country, it's having higher and more value. And then, of course, the businessman is making more money. And I think Dr. Beshola mentioned that some 2 weeks ago here, that a lot of people are into export right now because your currency is devalued and they are making so much money and your goods outside seem cheaper. So these are the opportunities that a devalued economy affords us. So what is in there is that government must also find a way to increase its stake in this area. I actually agree with you that we have an LPCL that is not as efficient as we will all want it to be. But I think that they are becoming better now, at least for the first time in so many years. We are seeing that NPCL had declared profit, even though it's a paltry sum compared to what Saudi Aramco is doing. Yeah, but I think with the competition that has come into place right now, especially with what the Dangote Refinery is doing, a lot of people are challenging the assumption of the NNPCL. And I think government's eyes are also open to what the operations are to see how can we really get value from these people. Like somebody said, if a single individual can build a refinery in 4 years, and in 40 years, NNPCL could not build and they are not making profit, and we are seeing a Dangote Refinery doing business and is making profit, then we must be able, there's a basis for comparison now. So that monopoly status is ended. And I think if after 2 years they are not making profit, we can as well just sell it off to Dangote so that they can help us manage it well, and then Nigeria can get royalty from what they are getting. The challenge is on the door of NNPCL to do more in terms of investing in the downstream sector and the upstream so that we can have so much around us and make so much money that nature already has pulled on
every ecosystem. Every ecosystem that lacks a regulatory framework is either going to collapse or it will be left completely in the hands of the private entrepreneurs who are going to fleece the system completely. Now, every business entity, Nigeria as a perfect example, you are coming into our climate to do business. We have laws in place. The Nigerian Content Board, Local Content Board, some time ago used to have it that if you are going to set up a business in Nigeria as a foreigner, there must be, even in your top level management, there's a certain number of Nigerians you will employ. You cannot fight that. There are below the management level, the normal people, if it's a factory that are going to work there, of course they are Nigerians. You're not going to import the Chinese or the Filipinos to come work at that level. Majority, if not 100%, are going to be Nigerians. In your management level, there are numbers of people. In fact, even in your board, there are specific number, there's a quota system that Nigerians must be represented there. So when you come to establish, either as a marketer who will be supplying this product within the country or outside the country, there are laws in place. And this quota system has been specified and put in place by the government of the country that, look, first of all, we are giving priority. This is the government that has a regulatory strength and regulatory power under the terms of reference with which your organization is even recognized as an entity. So even if it's obvious that you'll be sold to, the product will be given to you in Naira, and you have to dispense it in Naira to Nigerians, and you see that there's this opening for Nigerians, for you to be taken abroad or to be taken out of the shores of Nigeria, and you're going to be selling it in dollars and be making astronomical profits for yourself and your organization. And it doesn't all go well for you to take it out. I think the government must be very stringent. If you're not going to put a certain quota system for all practitioners or all participants in that industry, as long as the marketers are concerned, then make it individual for an organization that, look, for you as XYZ organization, your quota system that you must set, that you must sell to local and domestic refineries in Nigeria is 5% of your total accumulation.
Okay. All right.
And for you, because if you do not do that, then the same problem that we are solving during this petroleum scarcity issue, the Nigerian customs stood at the border when Nigerians were complaining bitterly, and they saw droves of tankers getting out of this country, and they told them, look, you need to get back, because Nigerians at the moment are buying this product for God knows how much then, and we cannot continue to allow our people to suffer. And it was during the Buhari administration, and they were sent back. So we must not give priority to, because we want the businesses to make money to sustain their capital and to continue to operate in Nigeria.
But I think that one is done.
I think, yes, why we make all these arguments, and I am not sure that the local owner are saying that these people are flouting any laws. And it would not be right for us to sit on this table to say there are no regulations.
Okay.
The industry is already over-regulated. So it's not about regulation. It's about the person who is putting money in your economy. And we are asking people to come and bring money to come and put in your economy.
But there are laws for you to operate by. Putting money in your economy, there are laws for you to operate by. You are flouting those laws.
If you have then nobody is flouting
They are, because domestic, they are not supplying to domestic refineries. The domestic refineries are not.
Are you sure that at the time those crude oil exploration companies were set up, there was a law asking them to give a certain percentage or
There's-
sell a certain
there's
percentage
a law.
to local
There's
refineries.
a law.
Because at that
Even
time,
the
we didn't really have
PIA
local
still emphasize
refineries
this.
as we have now
Even the old
in operation.
petroleum
Petroleum Industry Act
says that
specifies it.
450,000 barrels are for local consumption. The laws are clear. These people are not saying that these people have flouted the law. They're only saying prioritize us. 2 years ago, we didn't have a refinery that is looking for crude.
That's what I'm saying. So there needs to be a review
So
of that.
what you are saying is that
Okay.
you are having more people getting involved in the production, that what the law recommends is no longer sufficient for local consumption. Now, appeal is what is being made. But what I'm saying is that even if you are making an appeal to somebody, you are going to say to the person, do more for me. But the person is also considering his investment.
Zero allocation.
Okay.
Zero allocation to local refineries.
No, it's not zero.
We need to
No,
leave
it is zero.
No, 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 no.
It is
cannot
zero.
be
That is what it was
It
stated,
cannot
that
be
it is
zero.
zero.
It cannot be
Now these
zero.
local refineries have to source
No, no,
their
no.
products from abroad.
No, no,
now.
it's not zero.
That-
I'm
It's
going to
not zero
find you now. I'm
allocation.
going to find you now.
So we don't
need to
misinform
count this.
people, yeah.
We need to count this. I think basically what is the situation right now is that we have had an increase in demand. Just like when you have a road constructed maybe to have a dual carriage road to take maybe 4 lanes, and you have expansion or you have more people now in that community, so the road needs expansion. That's just what is going on. At the time these companies were established, we didn't have as much refineries as we're having now. Even the government-owned refineries that were operational then were not operating at this capacity. So there's need to expand it, which means that the laws and the framework need to be reviewed so that both the local refineries can be satisfied, government as well can have some to sell, because we also need the forex and government needs the earnings.